Hello, my name is Juliana. I am the International Officer for REC, and I'm just here to talk a little bit of my experience of moving from my home country, which is Brazil, in the UK, and what have I learned and the obvious things that I have picked up from living abroad, but also the other things that I have learned as well, and how this experience have completely shaped my life and how it could happen to you as well. And I will talk a little bit about one of the programs that you have on offer here at REC. So I think that it always started with the idea that traveling is really good for your soul, and you all hear about people going on gap years and how they come back saying it was really amazing. So it was just something that I really wanted to do, but not just to go away for only a week or two and just being a tourist. I think the idea is that I really wanted to immerse myself in the culture. So after graduated in Brazil, I studied history, and when at the tender age of 21 years old, I can't remember what it feels like anymore, but I decided that I wanted to go to another country and live there for about a year and see how life is in that country. So I did a lot of research, and I was thinking, there's so many countries in the world, where do I want to go? Where is the best place for me to go? So being in Brazil, very hot, very warm, very sunny, I thought I don't want to have a really big culture, shock. So I chose England because it's very, very similar with the weather in Brazil, right? Joke, joke. And, it was the whole idea of like really going to a culture was very different to mine, and really trying to see how I would try to understand what it's like to live in Britain. But also professionally, I really wanted to learn English, because when you speak English, you have so much more opportunities to get a job, particularly in Brazil. So I felt like, okay, I'll try to combine both. I'll learn English, and also I will have this amazing experience of living in another country. So after graduating, I got myself a ticket. I signed up to 1 month in an English language school, and I stayed in a host family. I lived in Cambridge. It was the first place where I went to. And if you live in Cambridge, you must have a bike. It's compulsory. They don't let you live there unless you have a bike. And then I got myself a pay-as-you-go mobile, the very simple one, Nokia one. I think everybody will remember, and I'm giving myself away of my age now, which is not great. But yeah, so I just arrived there. I needed to get a job because I needed to maintain myself there. So I'm talking to people. I managed to get my very first job in England, which was at WH Smith shop at the train station, so selling magazines and newspapers. And it was really, really good, because I got a job and I got the opportunity to work with English people, and they all like uni students having part-time jobs and trying to do both the study and getting a bit of money. And it was great because I really got to learn English much faster than I expected, and other friends as well. And my pronunciation also got a lot better because I was really listening, and they were correcting me and teaching me things. So, that was really positive of living and working with local people. So I ended up staying there for a little bit longer than a year as intended. My parents are thrilled about that. They bought me a ticket as a gift for my graduation, and in a year they expected back. And I think I'm on the Guinness record for the longest gap year in the world. I'm definitely there. So I think that, talking about, what I've gained from my first year, I think, yeah, as I mentioned about learning English and really improving the language, that it was one of my goals. It was something that I really, really want to do. But I also got to try different things. So when you learn English, for example, and you're trying to learn a bit of the culture, we always talk about, the roast dinners, and we talk about the baked beans, but nobody talks about the crisp sandwiches, that you have. I still don't understand the concept of crisp sandwiches, guys. I'm really sorry. But it's something that, you know, a cream egg on Easter, you know, it's another thing. And then you start picking up things like, you know, having a lager in a pub, in a local pub. So you're not going to Wetherspoons anymore and having a beer. You're now having a lager in a local pub. So you are really down there being British. And, you know, coming out from a nightclub in the middle of the night and going to the, you know, kebab van and pouring vinegar in your chips, you know, that's another thing that's, you know, really, really British, that, you know, you pick it up only if you are with locals, because none of my friends ever thought about pouring vinegar on your chips, especially at 3 in the morning. It's just not something that happens at all. But I also get to do like really other things, like, you know, I had friends that they are in the rowing club in Cambridge, which is a quite big sport to that. So I got the opportunity also to, you know, try that, you know, swimming at the River Cam and doing other things as well. Yes, you can have a cream tea, but if you are local to Cambridge, you will go to Grantchester, which is a very famous tea house there, where lots of people from Virginia Woolf, for example, used to go there and attend, and they have lots of like literary discussions. So you go there and inspired the Cambridge medals, so you have like proper scones, and it became a habit of me to cycle there and just go for the first warm weather, warmish, I should say, in April, and have tea and scones. I felt very British by that point, I have to say. But also, you know, yes, you do hear about places that you got to visit, you know, have to visit when you are in the UK. And yeah, I did go to London, I did go to Brighton. I wasn't living in Brighton, of course, at the time. Go to York, you know, Liverpool and so on. But I also got to spend the night in the solstice at Stonehenge, because, you know, it's one of those things that apparently British people do, you know, not all of them, but they go in the summer solstice, go in the night, and they have drums, and you watch the sun when it decides to come out and show, and goes the lights through the 3 very famous stones that. So again, you know, it's just the things that you really start gaining experience when you start really living in the culture, really being with the locals, you know, not just being with not being a tourist, and not being only living with other international students, which, you know, I'm really fond of them, and I still have lots of international students. But the purpose of this presentation obviously is talking about the benefits of being with the locals. So that was my first year, as you can see, really exciting. And you pick it up some things, you know, as you go along. But then a few years later, that's when you start really picking up more about the culture. So now I do love queuing. I queue for absolutely anything and everything. Sometimes I queue and I don't know what the queue is, and then I realize it's not a queue. But, you know, you got to appreciate what the love for queuing, you know. And I also have particularly learned this in London, about saying sorry, even though it's not my fault. So an example is trying to get in the tube, you know, Central Line about 8:30 in the morning, and people pushing you and saying sorry. They don't mean it, but you turn back and say, oh, sorry, even though they are the one pushing you to get on the train. Very, very English, guys. I also start to understand the very British problems jokes. And, you know, something that if you get someone, they can speak very good English, but if you don't get the culture and you have the game, you know, very British problems, or you get it, you start really, really understand it, because you're really starting to live like, or start to be around the couch as well. I also learned to invest in a good raincoat rather than umbrella, because it's no point of having umbrella, it's just flying away. It's just, yeah. I also end my text with 2x, you know, which took me ages to understand why people put X or X and O. It's like, what's that, you know? And I also had a Colin caterpillar cake, and it's just like, the fact is not only have that very famous cake, but it's the meaning behind is that you normally have Colin caterpillar cake for kids' birthday party, and you only gotta have that cake if you are invited by someone who lives here and have kids. So that is started showing to me that really I was getting more and more included in the culture and being more and more part of the society in no so obvious ways. And also I started buying pantomime tickets every year. I mean, it's just really, really, really English. And I don't see anyone actually having pantomime and trying to explain this. And for you to laugh, you actually need to understand the jokes. It's not about understanding English. It's about understanding the culture and the sarcasm of the English language. So that's a few years later on. But ultimately, of my task is what this one, when you probably have seen this before, it's just what British say, what the British mean, what other understands. So one of them, which is always my very, very, very favorite, is when people used to say to me, very interesting. And what I understood is like, wow, they are very impressed. But what they really, really means, like, this is madness, it's ridiculous idea. We only understand after many, many years of the tone when they mean, oh, that's very interesting, when they say, that's interesting in a British way. And that's the ultimately task to really start to understand that it's not talking about language. You start to understand the culture, how people talk, behave, their values, and all of that comes with really, really immersing yourself. And I think that developed a passion for me in really trying to explore as much as I could other cultures as well. So when I travel, you know, I was yesterday giving a training and I did say that, you know, so you guys can travel to other local villages as well. And there is, you know, a tourist bus that you can take, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you can do that, or you can take the local bus and go with the local people. It just depends on what you prefer. Do you prefer to have a seat and sit down on the way there, on the way back, or do you want to see the local people? You know, there's no right and wrong, but what do you prefer? And those are the kind of things that I really start doing, you know, start taking local buses, start going to local restaurants, you know, we're not really caring about, you know, TripAdvisor on the top things to do and see, because it's only tourist, you know, and if you really want to live like the locals, you really need to start immersing yourself and start looking at different ways of living. And the benefits is that you start really gaining so much from that culture, and really start appreciating other people's cultures, and also start appreciating your own culture. You know, yes, Brazilians do not say sorry for anything. No, we do not queue for anything. But, you know, you go to the bakeries and the lady that's serving you, taking your order, you just go, hello, my dear flower, hello, my beautiful sunshine. And that's the way how they are doing that, you know, that's how they work. You know, I remember when I went back to Brazil for a year, and I was working a language school, and there was like parents' evening, and the parents will come and give me kiss on the cheeks. Imagine, after 8 years of being in England, I was just like horrified, like, why is this parent giving me a kiss on the cheek? But it's so informal, and that's how Brazilians are, and it's so beautiful. And I think it's so beautiful to have this being so informal and being so warm and so friendly. But I also appreciate all the cues, and I also appreciate how things work sometimes much better here in the UK. So it's not about making, oh, this is better, this is worse. It's just go, do you know what? It's really great that they work this way. Perhaps this is something I can also try and implement. So don't worry, people rec, I am not going to come to the office kissing you all in the cheeks tomorrow. It's okay. But if you do want one, I'm more than happy to give you a kiss on the cheek and say hello. We also tend to give another one when you say goodbye. So you get 2 kisses. So, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, so it's just the whole experience of living abroad really got me to think how I could make this into a career. And I worked in different places, sending people abroad to volunteer for 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, a year, everywhere in the country, from Costa Rica, Kenya, Nepal, Japan. I think pretty much every country in Europe, I sent someone to go and volunteer for a period of time. And when they come back and they all talk about, you know, the amazing experience that they had and how they have changed. And sometimes it's all the change that is not really clear you can't really tell so much how you have changed. But they all come back saying how amazing, and it kind of tickles back into my memory, you know, how I felt, you know, when I came here. And yeah, it's something that I'm really passionate about it. And I think so important, you know, understanding culture, particularly what is currently happening in the world. You know, the more we tend to appreciate people's cultures and be in touch with others, we tend to be much less judgmental. We tend to be so much understanding. And it's really true understanding culture that you really create peace in the world. And I think that's something that I really am really passionate about it. So I think one of the things that REC that we offer is our Malaga project. I'm not going to send you guys to Brazil for a year. I'm really sorry, but you get to experience something similar that I have done. So you are going to, you know, there's opportunity fully funded for anyone who is 18 years old and double vaccinated with passports to go to Malaga in Spain for 2 weeks and have a work experience. And why this is good, because as I mentioned back to my presentation right at the beginning, that I was working with locals, I was working with, you know, British people at WH Smith, and that's why I got to, you know, pick it up on my English and learn all those things, because I was with the locals. And this experience, you're also going to be working with local people from Malaga or from Spain for sure. You know, they're not necessarily going to be there, but you're going to pick it up a lot more about the culture rather than just going on a holiday. It's something that you can put in your CV. So when I wanted to learn English, you know, you might want to improve your Spanish if you speak Spanish, but you don't have to. But you can have that in your CV. You can say, I worked for 2 weeks and, you know, I gained some experience, and that might as well land into a job. I have had people in the past that took part in the project and they used this experience in their interview and they got a job later. So I'm not saying that it's definitely going to happen, but it can happen. You know, it has happened for sure. And you get so much confidence, you know, and you get to appreciate all we have the time off to really explore the culture and go back to what I mentioned before, you know, really appreciate other people's cultures and really understand the way of thinking and, you know, and just appreciate, I think that's the word, really appreciate how people live and all the values. So I do have another 3 groups going. I don't think you can see here in properly in my recording because you have people here on my right, but you have the 10th to the 24th of May, then you have in June 7th to the 21st, and then from the 5th to 19th of July. I think I've got the right dates. I'm sorry if I haven't got it, but it's not showing properly here on my screen. And if, you know, there's some deadlines, and if anyone wants to have the experience of going abroad, and, you know, I heard from Gilly, one of the guys that works at REC, and he lived in Spain for many years, and he told me there was a thing in Spain that you put a chocolate bar in a baguette and you eat. I think that's the equivalent to crisp sandwiches in the UK. So I think you guys have to go and try and see what you make out of it. Maybe it's something like crisp sandwiches are only appreciated by British, and a chocolate bar baguette is only appreciated by Spanish. Maybe others will appreciate as well. I don't know, but it's up to you to just go and try, you know, this if you wish. So if you are interested, you can send an email to me, you can get more information, our application pack and so on. So thank you so much for listening to my crazy story. And if anyone has any questions, let me know.